Welcome to the Mug Hub podcast, the ultimate platform for all things related to medicine's use, patient care, and the incredible world of pharmacy. We are your hosts, Connor and Sian, and we're thrilled to have you join us today.
Here at the Mug Hub podcast, we're passionate about empowering future pharmacists, expanding your knowledge and igniting your curiosity. Whether you're a first year embarking on your pharmacy journey or a final year getting ready to go out into practice, this podcast is designed just for you.
Across our series, we delve into 4 captivating themes that will take you on an enlightening and entertaining journey. From exploring intriguing clinical topics to showcasing the extraordinary individuals who make up our incredible teams, we're here to unlock the secrets of the pharmacy world.
So grab your favourite mug, settle in, and let's embark on an incredible voyage together. Get ready to be inspired, educated, and motivated as we unlock the vast potential of pharmacy and the vital role it plays in healthcare. Welcome back to another episode of The Mug Hub, and this morning we are very lucky to be joined by Sam Ingram, who works at the university in pharmacy with us as a teacher practitioner, but is mainly employed by Boots as a healthcare academy trainer. Welcome, Sam.
Welcome, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, so there are 2 aspects to the job there by the sounds of things, Sam. So there's the healthcare academy trainer part. I'd quite like to know a little bit about that.
Okay.
And I'd also like to know what a teacher practitioner is and just generally a little bit about the kinds of activities that you get involved in.
Okay, so I suppose I can appreciate that 2 names, 1 job. It's just 2 labels in 2 different places. So I work for Boots. I also therefore link into the university with you guys for part of my week. And across all 5 days, should I say, it's all about supporting, coaching and teaching pharmacy professionals, whether it be with you guys in the undergraduate at the university course, and thinking about not just what we do day to day as far as delivery, but actually planning and thinking about what that needs to look like for our pharmacists in the future. But then as their career progresses, they come out and do their professional year before qualification exams. And I overview that within my Boots world for a group that are in the southeast. And then as they continue in their career, look after them and overview their journey as newly qualifieds through the foundation year going forward.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. So if we've got a student at the moment who's in the final years of their degree and they are hoping or know that they're going to have a Boots, I don't want to say placement, but being placed within Boots for their foundation year. And it's in the southeast of England, they'll be supported by you, is that correct?
Either depending on where they sit, if they sit in Sussex and Kent, by me. If they sit the other side, which is more towards Hampshire, by my colleague Kelly.
Okay, cool.
Wow. So obviously our listeners are going to know you in your capacity here at the university. Yeah. I just want to highlight as well that we've got another Brighton alumni that we're interviewing. So you studied here at Brighton as well.
Yes. So many.
I know.
Many. Why don't you people go?
It's just
like fly the nest.
We all go and then come back.
We all go and come back. It's like a homing beacon.
Oh.
Could you give us some examples of how you support foundation trainees? So what kind of activities do you get up to? Do you have training days? What kind of things do you offer from a Boots perspective?
Okay, so when they come with us for the year, they're all individually based in a store supported by their designated supervisors. But myself, I work as that educational overview for that group. So this year I've had 10, next year I've got about the same. And my job is to support both the trainee and that supervisor through that year, whether it be guidance on a day-to-day and what they're doing, and absolutely coming out, as you said, and intimated on training days. So I hold 25 training days across the year, normally about 2 a month. And we cover everything from clinical to business to communication, to preparing for registration exam. We do a mock exam. And then we also, towards the end, get them to think about what's it going to be like when they're in those new shoes as that pharmacist professional, and hopefully setting them up so they feel confident for that. So a real mix of what we do.
I think that's great. And I think it's a really nice example of how you still get support. It's not like you finish your degree and you're chucked out and you're on your own.
Absolutely not.
It sounds like you've got a really nice support network of ways to
Absolutely.
keep that education and that continued professional development for foundation trainees. Fantastic. Okay. So, I mean, you've touched upon this already, but what does a typical week look like for you then? So your split role, you do 2 days a week with the university and the rest of your week is with Boots. What does a typical week look like for you?
I think the point, I don't have a typical week. Every week is different. And I think I've done this job. I've been in this role now for 20 odd, don't want to think about how many years, a while. Let's put it like that. And that's the reason why. Because it is constantly different. So no week is the same, whether it be in university for my 2 days where I might be delivering teaching, could be lectures, could be workshops, or it could be the three of us very often sitting thinking about, and what does that need to be for the next group that are coming through? How do we make it better? What's needed for the profession in the future? How do we build that in? Which I just think is just a real honour and privilege to have when you're thinking about the future of what those students are going to be doing. Within my other 3 days, I could be running a training day for trainee pharmacists. I could be running a training day for our newly qualifieds, and we support our newly qualifieds right from through for the first 15 months of them being with us, and we get them together once a quarter and have time with them. I might be out going visiting any of those groups out in stores and spending time with them. I also do keep in touch days once a month. So once a month I work in store as that pharmacist. So I could be talking to customers, talking to patients, working with the teams in the consultation room. I could be vaccinating. So that could be something that I'm doing on that day. Doing hypertension finding, trying to find out what's going on for people that have not had high blood pressure diagnosed. So that helps me keep relevant with what's happening, so I can bring that back in.
Go on.
Can I?
Yeah, of course.
So this isn't a question that I've got on my list, but something that I'm quite interested in. So how do you go then from graduating as a pharmacist to then training future pharmacists? Because I don't know, maybe lots of people would think once you've graduated, you're there, you go into the job that you've been trained for, and sort of don't think about then training for the next level. So what are the steps that you go through to then become an educator?
I suppose for me, all I can talk about is my journey.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And what I did.
Yeah.
So I did my foundation year. It was called pre-reg year at the time with Boots, and then stayed and went out on relief. So where I was working in different stores around the south. I might be just covering a day. I might be doing a fortnight or a week, just so I could bed in that learning, which absolutely is what you do. You've done this, you've been learning for 4 or 5 years, so you need to go and do it. And worked in a number of stores, did bits of leading and management and working with teams. And the pivot, I was thinking about this when I knew I was going to have to do, what was it? What was that pivotal moment for me? And I remember being in a store, I'd been asked to look after it for a couple of months, and we had a dispenser who had been trying for the last 6 months to complete her training programme. And she'd really struggled because there'd been lots of different pharmacists in, and we did it. And to see how pleased she was, just how that lifted her, because I coached her and helped her, and we did it, and she did it, I should say. It wasn't me, it was her. Just made me realise how much I loved doing that.
Yeah.
And I just continued to do it with all the jobs that I had after that. And then found out about this role.
Okay.
And then spent every time I saw those people saying, that's my job.
Yeah. So you were kind of doing it informally, and then realised there was a
And
a
you
role
do,
to go into.
if you look at the standards that our regulator expects of us, one of them is about coaching and mentoring.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is integral to what is that expectation of you as that pharmacist as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I just took it to the next level, because that's what I just found. I just got so much joy seeing people progress and get to do what they'd tried so hard to do.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
That's great. And I think it's similar to my story as well, is, just enjoying coaching and leading people to improve their skills kind of then made it want to be a permanent job. So it's nice to hear your story there. It's another question that's off-piste a little bit.
Look at us.
So I've heard the term portfolio pharmacist a lot. So it sounds like you've mentioned lots of different bits of your role. Would you consider yourself a portfolio pharmacist? And if not, why not?
Okay. Ooh, no. I suppose my perception of a portfolio pharmacist, I suppose, is somebody who probably works for lots of different people, maybe doing lots of different roles. I suppose that's what I'd think of in that way as a portfolio pharmacist. But I can hear what you're saying, and that making me think, well, actually, I probably do that within the one job that I have, because it is one job across those 5 days, but I'm in lots of different places. And I'm very, very lucky to have that. And I know that, which is why I just, hold on to what I'm doing. So I suppose if you're putting it in that perspective, yes, I guess I am a portfolio pharmacist.
Wow. I was quite excited when somebody said, "Oh, Connor, you're a portfolio pharmacist." I was like,
how are we defining portfolio pharmacist?
I don't know that there is a definition for a portfolio pharmacist.
Do you want to create one?
My understanding is that, if you're in a role, like you said, so if you're a community pharmacist as a manager or as a locum or what have you, that is the sector that you work in. That's your role. Similarly, in hospital or GP, the minute you start to add in other aspects, so if you work cross-sector, so you might have a role that is you work a few days in community and then you have a few days where you work in a GP practice, that automatically to me means that you're more of a portfolio pharmacist in the sense that you follow a different role. Yes, we're all pharmacists, but obviously within that there are different elements to it. So, and again, for me, so I do community shifts, I do outpatient clinics in hospital, and then I work here in academia. I'd never even considered myself a portfolio pharmacist until somebody said it, and I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I think I am, because
that sounds like one to me.
You're using similar skills, but in different sectors. And I think what was quite interesting, and I wanted to ask the question, is because, like you said, you have one role, but there are loads of different aspects to your role. So it was just interesting to hear whether you would consider that to be portfolio, or whether you just think actually you've just got a really broad role that you sit within and everything is...
I think you could define it either way, both ways, because on paper it's one role.
Yeah.
But it gives you the opportunity to do so many different things in different arenas. But the skills that you use are very similar across all of them.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the part that brings the interest, really, that you're not just in one place with one group of people. That learning and development, that training, that coaching, you can apply across everywhere.
There are so many transferable skills as a pharmacist. That means that you can work in so many different places. Even if you didn't want to be in pharmacy anymore, there's so many of those professional skills that we teach at university and through your training that are then transferable to other areas. So very employable.
And thinking about, like, even that coaching, you take that coaching to a trainee and you help them understand how they can improve themselves, but then you take that coaching skill into a consultation room and you sit with a patient.
Interesting,
and you talk to them and you help them think how they can improve themselves for their health and their medication and their what's going on for them. It's the same skill. You're just using it in different places, just not just helping somebody unlock that potential in themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like Sian's got some follow-up there.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I do.
Unlocked something in Sian there.
Unleashed the interest in psychology in me. Well, no, I was just thinking about that, because that is interesting, because when we think about coaching, we are typically thinking about coaching the next level of person within your role. But you're absolutely right. Of course, you are coaching patients as well at the same time, and like having discussions around medication taking behaviour. Of course, that's kind of.
And I think
coaching.
That's really key, because I think with behaviours, and I know we've talked about it before. If you tell somebody this is what you need to do, the probability of them doing it is much lower than if you help somebody understand what's happening for themselves and help them understand how they can work their way through it. And that's that is that coaching skill.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess you could also use those coaching skills within when you're talking to colleagues as well.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm not thinking of anything in particular, but often when you're, I don't know, in a work context, you have to be quite sophisticated in your negotiation skills,
Absolutely.
perhaps.
Negotiation, always key.
Yeah. Good. I want to know a little bit more about your role. And I think I'm going to go back in time a little bit now. And it
Okay.
feels like, I don't know, does it feel like COVID was a long time ago? Maybe not. Maybe, well, we're all feeling the hangover from it still.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, COVID impacted everybody. It impacted healthcare mostly, probably,
Yes.
from various different directions. I'm just wondering what it was like for you working within pharmacy and the impact that COVID had on what you were doing as a
On what
pharmacist.
I was doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is a bit different, I suppose, really, for what happened for us. So in my teaching world, if I think, because that's the bit that's the same, everything just went online. I think the same as a lot of people did. A lot of conversations on a screen, a lot of thinking about how to change that in those ways, because those training groups, those new pharmacists to be, that still had to keep happening. But we had to do it differently, and we had to make sure that at the end of it they still felt confident to do what they needed to do at the end of their professional exams and go on. The same with all our people that were out in pharmacy. And at the same time in pharmacy didn't stop. So whereas a lot of other people went behind closed doors, actually pharmacy couldn't and didn't. So being out in shops and stores and seeing people working out there was very different, a lot of different pressures that people had to deal with. But then for me, on the other side of what I do, I got an opportunity to do something completely different. In one way, in that, well, it was still teaching, still learning, but the team that I work in, we were involved in training people to do swab tests.
Okay.
So to take mouth and nose, or throat, I should say, not mouth, throat and nasal swab tests in the drive-through centres that as nationally were opened up to help keep the NHS going initially, but then were opened up more to the public to enable us to try and monitor and understand when people had COVID.
So who were you training up there? Were you training up healthcare workers that were already employed by the NHS, or was it volunteers?
No, it was a real mix. So to start off with, it was people that had been furloughed from various other jobs. But initially within Boots, so people we had those people coming in. But then as time came on, it was expanded and people could apply to come and do it.
Okay.
So they weren't healthcare trained. They were from all sorts of backgrounds, which was just a joy to see all these different types of people from all these different jobs and experiences, all volunteering and offering to come forward to learn how to do this, to help man those drive-through centres.
Interesting.
And also just the people that then we worked alongside that were on the centres helping them run, again, came from all different jobs. And how everyone just got on with it and worked together was just incredible.
I'm interested to visualize how that looked. So a training session, can you just describe how many people did you have? Was it a 1 hour training? What happened in those sessions?
So people were trained over more than one day, because we needed to make sure that they were confident to be able to do the test and to be able to do it properly. And then we would work with them out on the drive-through centres as well, working with them, standing alongside, coaching them until they felt confident and we felt confident that they were able to do it. And then they had check-in visits, but then they had a team leader who would then work with them and keep them going. So we were out on those drive-through sites in all sorts of weathers.
Wow.
Holding down tents sometimes.
Oh gosh.
Driving rain, holding onto PPE as the wind's whistling through, all sorts of things. But you'll be surprised how resilient people are and what sort of skills people can bring in those situations.
That's great. Oh, come on. Sorry, I just want to follow up with another thing.
Okay, I've got a follow-up as well. I was just interested in how your training style might have changed, because you've said that they weren't all healthcare, or so you're used to pharmacy students and foundation trainees and newly qualifieds. Did you find that there were changes in the way that you trained non-healthcare professionals?
Nice left field question. I don't actually think there were, because we were confident about what we were doing and we were confident in how we'd been trained to train.
Fine.
So that actually wasn't a worry, and it was just ensuring that the people, whomever we were, they themselves felt confident in what they were doing.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think we really made that difference, because a lot of what we were asking people to do, yes, okay, there was a technique, but it was how you made the person in front of you feel comfortable with what you were going to do, and how you made the person in front of you give you the either position themselves or put themselves in a way that you knew you could do what you had to do. So it was about your communication skills, even in full PPE, about that reassurance, about how you did that element. And also about how you being very particular and procedural about how you put those tests together and how you did all of that element to ensure that it was as good as it could be.
I guess it was all brand new, so it didn't matter what your background was.
No.
You know, you were all from a ground zero, really. So yeah, I guess you've.
And because people were putting themselves forward and applying to do it, a lot of them came with backgrounds within people.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking with that of how I used swabs, and at the very beginning, if I was testing, I was very, very careful. And actually, when we were coming into university sometimes to teach, if there was a session where we had to teach it face to face, we had swabbing cubicles downstairs in the refectory, in the canteen, and there was somebody there to tell you how to do it, and I was did it exactly as they told me to do it. Then as time went on, my technique kind of got a bit sloppier, shall we say. But it's the same with all medical devices, isn't it, as well? I do the same. I've noticed the same with my son and his inhaler. Obviously when he was first taught and when we were first taught how to use it, it was perfect. And then over time, not so perfect. And it's a weird one. And I think, this is... Oh, I'm very much going into my own area of interest here, but how you think a skill, if you keep practicing it, should get better and more embedded, and you should become better, you're more proficient at that skill. But actually, oftentimes, people take shortcuts over time. There is no question there.
Well, I was just going to say, from the asthma one's quite an interesting one at the moment, because there's all community pharmacies at the moment should be having conversations with their patients that use inhalers and doing that check-in just to make sure they are still using them correctly and if they've got any questions. So I totally agree. Just because we've got patients that have used them for years, do never assume that they're using them correctly. And part of the role is to have that conversation, get patients to show you what they do, give them advice, tweak their technique, because again, techniques and that of how a person should use some things does change as well. As we learn how those devices use and how those devices change. So it should never be just a one-off conversation at the beginning and then, right, off you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at drivers as well. They're probably, technique-wise, they will, forget it. Drivers, who cares? Cut that out.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll work through those thoughts later in my head.
Yeah, drivers.
Well, okay, so drivers, in the driving test, they're hitting all of the points. They're doing everything
They shouldn't
correctly.
be hitting anything.
They should not be hitting. Fair point. Their hands are in the right position. They're doing the mirror signal manoeuvre thing. And then over time, you get a driver 10 years down the line. Lots of those behaviours have gone.
It's that conscious competence. Consciously competent.
Yeah.
And then we become unconsciously competent.
Yes.
And then that's when it all goes sometimes different.
Sometimes
in
different.
driving.
Yeah.
Unconsciously incompetent. I think that's me most of the time.
Oh, please. You know you're bad. Thanks, Sam.
So, I mean, I think it's been fascinating talking about, how you've got to where you are now, what COVID did and changed things. I just wonder, have you thought a little bit about what's next for you then?
So I suppose what's next So we've got new courses that we're having to develop within the university world, because prescribing is becoming much more to the forefront of what is going to be needed of our pharmacists of the future. So how do we prepare and set those trainees, those students, while they still, as they are, I'm getting my groups mixed up, get those students ready for that. So that's quite exciting. But then that also then plays out in our qualified world. So our pharmacists that are already out there, what does that look like for them? What's that going to mean from a training point of view? What about me as a pharmacist in that world? What do I need to do for that? So there's quite a lot of information to think in. You know, I've registered to do a course around examination skills, to try and get my head around, well, what do I need to think about as that pharmacist? So even though I've been qualified for, you know, over 25 years, it doesn't mean to say I don't stop and think, what do I need to continue to do? And that's really important.
I mean, we've had this a few times, Sian, of the lifelong learner.
Yep.
So being a pharmacist is never right, well, I've learned everything I need to, that's it. And I think every time we've had somebody in, and you've just said it, is there's always a new skill.
Always
there's
a new skill.
Something new that needs to come in for you. So you've mentioned prescribing. Is that on the cards for you? Is that something you think that will come into your scope at some point?
I don't know. I'm very open to it. Who knows? We'll wait and see.
I have a question. So I know that we are now training students to be prescribing ready when they graduate. What happens to all those old pharmacists out there that will still be practicing? Can they just get away with? There are old pharmacists. They do exist. Do they just not have to prescribe? And what's the score with that? I literally don't know.
There's a huge opportunity out there, old pharmacists. I now feel, I'm not going to define myself as one of those.
Should we rephrase them? Established.
Established
pharmacist.
Oh, I can be an established pharmacist. I'm not going to be an old one.
Elder or doyen?
No.
Doyen.
That's even worse.
Did you think?
Established.
So what happens with the established pharmacists who've graduated on maybe some more traditional outcomes and are not prescribing ready?
So there are courses available for those to think, is that what they want to do? If that isn't what they want to do, that they don't have to.
Okay.
But there are many established pharmacists out there actually who are quite excited and keen to be part of this change.
Yeah.
And there are many courses out there linked to universities where a 6-month conversion course, learning course that people are getting involved in. There's funding from that nationally, as well as lots of companies are doing that, whether it be in community, hospital or GP practice, to give people that opportunity if that's what they choose to go for. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think with any big changes, there'll always be a number of people that will go, right, this is not for me anymore, and maybe retire.
Yeah.
And I think we're in that transition period where we'll probably have established pharmacists who won't want to be prescribers, and for now that's okay, but maybe in 10-15 years the expectation that everybody will be a prescriber, but we can't foresee that. I don't think, it might be that we have some and some. It might be that the role of a pharmacist just generally is you are expected to prescribe. But as you've mentioned, there are lots of postgrad courses to become prescribers. So.
And for me, it's about giving those established pharmacists the confidence they have those skills already, because they're using them already in whatever environment they're in, whatever sector they're in. They're making those diagnoses. They're having that thinking. They're making those decisions, whether it be somebody coming in because they've got a cough or a cold, they're still having to do that, or it's somebody that's coming in, or you're seeing someone in a clinic or in a consultation room. You're still having to think through that. So it's how they have the confidence to know they can do it, and then they take those skills into that additional place.
Yeah. I mean, the change was made for a reason, because we have that skill set already. So it's,
makes sense.
Fantastic. Thank you. So thinking about our student pharmacists, could you give me, or them, me?
God, you have to take everything.
I know, it's
me.
It's all about me. Could you offer our student pharmacists one piece of advice for their journey moving forward?
Be confident to talk to people.
Okay.
That will always be my advice. This role, wherever it is, involves communicating, talking, and with people, and you need to be able to feel that you're able to do that, that you are confident to do that, that you think about the way that you do that, and actually take yourself forward and do that. So I would be saying to student pharmacists, if that's something that at the moment isn't in your skill set, go and do it. And it doesn't have to be in pharmacy. Go and get go and do anything where it involves being part of a group. That means you have to communicate, whether it's volunteering, whether it's in a bar, whether it's in a coffee shop, whether it's in anywhere, whatever it is. Go and talk to people.
Yeah, definitely. I almost, when you gave that piece of advice, I took it as slightly different to that when you said that, was be confident to communicate with people in the sense when you're struggling with something. Or so when you first said that, be confident to communicate, I thought you were going to start talking about speaking to other people to help support you, or so I suppose that's part of it as well. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
Be willing to say, look, actually, I'm struggling, or I don't know this.
Absolutely,
we're not perfect, and actually, communication is key.
Yeah, love both of those pieces of advice. I'm coming to that much later in life. Probably the realization that just talking is it's very rarely going to end negatively. If you enter a conversation with honesty and integrity, often a good outcome to it. Anyway, yes, great piece of advice. Thank you. A little bit of a fun question now, or fun, silly, I don't know. But listen, let's imagine we're going away somewhere. Let's take you away to a remote island, and on this remote island, you will be the only healthcare professional there.
Okay.
And you've got a population of about 100 people under your care. You're allowed to take 3 health-related items with you. What would they be and why?
Okay. Am I allowed to admit that I had a heads up of this question? So I've done a bit of thinking.
Absolutely.
Excellent, because it's been quite entertaining thinking this question and things that people have come to. So does your population, typical pharmacists, when you ask others this, they're always like, well, how many in our population? Are they all different age groups? And really getting down into the detail. And to which my comment was, it's meant to be fun. But pharmacists, when you ask them anything, will drill it down to really understand. So what would I take? So a sensible item. First of all, an antibiotic.
Okay.
And a particular antibiotic.
Yes.
Called doxycycline.
Okay.
Reason being, it covers a lot of infection, so it's broad in what it does, and it has an additional clever little ability as an anti-malarial.
Oh,
fantastic.
There you go.
Such a good one.
So that's a double one. So
like that.
Yeah. So that one was a good one. Now the second question, because you can use it for everything. I want the biggest tub of Sudocrem you can possibly get to me. Because it's from an ointment point of view, it is everything. And if you got really stuck, you could even use it as sun cream.
You could.
Really?
It could. Is that part of my first aid kit? So I don't need to put it in my 3?
No. So I should have said you have got a first aid kit, but I'm willing to accept the Sudocrem because that wouldn't traditionally be part of. Well, it might be, but we're going to let that go. Wouldn't traditionally be part of a first aid kit, or would it?
I'm quite happy for it to be in my first aid kit.
Then you can have more.
Oh, excellent!
I'll let you have another one, but I'm going to just give you a little story about Sudocrem because I agree it can be used for lots of items. And I may have said this on a previous interview to somebody else, or I may not. I don't know. Anyway, I had very dry skin at one point in my life. I don't know why, but my legs were very itchy and dry. So I thought I need to get the thickest moisturiser I can find.
Don't use Sudocrem for that.
I use Sudocrem for that. And
but if you were on your island, you could have used it.
Oh my God, can you imagine the sand sticking to it?
No one told me my treasure island had sand. You see, in my world, my treasure island has got rocks.
I like that you've changed it to a treasure island.
Why else are they there?
There's no other reason.
Okay. Well, okay, so you've got Sudocrem. You've got doxycycline.
Yeah, so is pseudocreme, am I having it or is it part of my first aid kit?
I think it's one of your items.
It's one of
I
your
think.
items. Yeah.
Now I've really had to
Harsh.
think about my third item because I thought now I could be sensible or I could not be. So I thought about things that I could go to something. I need a painkiller, I thought.
Okay.
And then I debated what level, whether it is just paracetamol because we could give it to most people and it would cover everybody. Or if we upped the ante a little bit and put in some morphine because we can, again, go low because it can go low dose and it can cover lots of things. And it's also anti-diarrheal.
Oh,
so you've been very sensible with your multi-purpose
Multi-purpose medicines.
Yep. It's clever.
It is.
Yeah.
It's interesting that antibiotics and painkillers have come up quite a lot, haven't they?
They have.
So I guess my follow-up question then is, how would you measure success on this island?
About how many I had left when the rescue boat came to get us.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Okay.
So survival rates.
Survival rates got to be quite high.
Okay.
How many complaints I got.
Okay.
How happy my people were.
Nice.
Yeah, how much opportunity I had to lay in, and chill and whilst waiting for this, or whether I was constantly up and down.
I mean, you're the only
people have
healthcare professional.
I am the only healthcare professional. Yes. So that's how I thought I'd think about it. Yeah.
Good. I like that. You've got quite a few things covered there.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us. I hope that you enjoy the summer break and getting summer break.
I don't
getting
have
ready
a summer
for
break.
No. And that brings us to the end of another captivating episode of the Mug Hub podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion and took away valuable insights that will fuel your passion for pharmacy.
Remember to subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for future episodes where we continue to explore fascinating clinical topics, introduce you to incredible individuals and enhance your skills to bridge the gap from bench to bedside.
If you've any questions, topic suggestions, or you'd like to get involved, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us via our social media platforms or send us an email.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep engaging with your studies. Thank you for joining us at the Mug Hub podcast.